There's a toy that's scaring people right now. It looks harmless. A little willow twig in a cheap plastic box. You snap it, you make one wish, and the wish comes true. That's the promise of the One Wish Willow. In the story, a boy makes the simplest wish there is. He wishes the girl he loves would love him back. And she does. Instantly. Completely. That's when the horror starts. Because he didn't wish for her to be happy. He wished to own how she feels. But here's the real question. The one the whole thing is actually about. Why does getting exactly what we want so often destroy us? Start with something strange about you. You already make wishes. All the time. You blow out candles. You toss coins in fountains. You knock on wood. You know it doesn't work. You do it anyway. Psychologists have a name for this. Magical thinking. The belief that a thought, a ritual, a wish can reach out and bend reality. It starts in childhood, and it never really leaves. Because wishing was never about magic. It's about control. It's what humans do when we want something we can't make happen ourselves. And here's what's strange. Every culture invented a version of it. The genie in the lamp. 3 wishes and always a catch. A shooting star. Make a wish before it's gone. Eyelashes. Dandelions. Coins down a well. 11:11 on the clock. Millions of people every day making the same silent wish. The fairy godmother. Rub the lamp. Blow out the candles. Different countries. Different centuries. The exact same instinct. Humans have always believed that if we want something badly enough and say it just right, the universe will listen. The One Wish Willow isn't new. It's the oldest human fantasy there is. So why does it never go away? Because every wish hides a trap. Thousands of years ago, a king named Midas wished everything he touched would turn to gold. He got his wish. Then he touched his food, his drink, his daughter. 100 years ago, a story handed a family a monkey's paw. 3 wishes. They wished for money. The money came as payment for their son's death. The One Wish Willow is the same idea in a plastic box. Here's the trap. We don't wish for outcomes. We wish for things, and we almost never know what the thing will actually cost. And once you see the trap, you can't unsee it. It's hidden in almost every story you love. Aladdin frees a genie and immediately wishes to become someone he isn't. In Bruce Almighty, a man is handed the powers of God and nearly ruins his whole life in a week. The Little Mermaid trades her voice for a pair of legs. Pinocchio wishes to be real. Cinderella wishes for one perfect night that vanishes at midnight. Every single one is the same warning, dressed up as a fairy tale. Because deep down, we all suspect the same thing. Getting the wish is the easy part. Living with it is where the real story begins. The One Wish Willow just stops pretending. It says the quiet part out loud and turns it into horror. Now it gets worse. Because the problem isn't the wish. It's the wanting. Psychologists ran the experiment. Tell people a jar is off limits, and suddenly those cookies taste better. Put a rope in front of something, and we want what's behind it more. It's called reactance. The moment something is out of reach, our brain inflates its value. So a lot of desire isn't about the thing at all. It's about the distance. Then we close the distance. We finally get it. And here's the cruel part. The happiness we imagined doesn't arrive. Psychologists call it the arrival fallacy. We're certain the goal will change everything. It rarely does. Within weeks, the new job feels normal. The new phone is just a phone. We drift back to exactly where we started, every single time. And when the wish is a person, it gets darker. There's a name for that overwhelming, obsessive craving for someone. Limerence. It feels like love, but it's really a loop. Intrusive thoughts, a desperate need for them to choose you. It isn't about who they are. It's about what having them would do for you, which is exactly the boy's wish, and exactly the trap. But there's a deeper reason the wish never satisfies. And it's happening inside your brain right now. Neuroscientists found something strange. The chemical that makes you want something is not the same one that makes you enjoy it. Wanting runs on dopamine. It's loud, urgent, and always pointed at the future. It screams, "Get that," and you'll finally feel amazing. Liking is a completely different system. It's quieter, much smaller, and it fades almost instantly. So your brain pours enormous energy into chasing things and spends almost none actually enjoying them once they're yours. That's not a flaw in you, it's how the machine was built. Wanting evolved to keep us moving, not to keep us happy, which means the wish was rigged from the very start. You were never going to feel the way you imagined, because the wanting and the having are run by two different machines, which brings us back to the willow. The boy's wish sounds romantic. Make her love me. But look closer. He never wished for her to be happy, or free, or okay. He wished to control how she feels. That's not love. That's possession. And that is the real meaning of the One Wish Willow. It was never about magic. It's what happens when we try to force love, instead of earning it. Because the moment you control love, it stops being love. Now here's why this matters. You don't own a magic willow, but you make wishes like this every day. If I just get the promotion, I'll be happy. If they would just text back, if I had their life, their body, their followers. Scroll far enough and every feed becomes a wall of other people's granted wishes. And we keep wishing to control the things we can't. The outcome? The person. What everyone thinks of us. That's the modern One Wish Willow. And it's already in your pocket. It takes wishes just as literally. You get the followers and the pressure, the relationship by holding on too tight, the thing, and then the emptiness. Be careful what you wish for was never a fairy tale warning. It's a description of how wanting actually works. So if getting the wish doesn't work, what are you supposed to do instead? Here's the strange answer. You stop wishing for things and you start wishing for directions. Not make me successful, but let me become someone who does the work. Not make them love me, but let me become someone worth loving. One is a demand for an outcome you'll never fully control. The other is a wish about who you're willing to become. The first kind always backfires because it skips the only part that actually mattered. The second kind can't backfire because the wanting and the becoming are the same thing. And that's the quiet genius of the One Wish Willow. It only ever grants the first kind, which is exactly why in the story, it's a curse. So the toy isn't the scary part. A willow twig can't hurt anyone. The scary part is the wish, the selfish, human, completely understandable wish to make the world and other people bend to what we want. We all have a One Wish Willow. It's the quiet voice that says, if I could just control this one thing, I'd finally be happy. But the people who get everything they wish for are rarely the happy ones. Maybe the goal was never to get the wish. Maybe it was to learn to want the right things in the first place. If this made you see something differently, you'll like the next AISK story too. Because sometimes the most ordinary things hide the most extraordinary truths.